Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome back for another dose of nightmare fuel. Generally on this show, myself and Stu have been taking a look at questionable episodes from children's TV shows. But what about the things we watch between TV shows? Adverts, of course. Even though adverts these days are pretty much just some kind of animal dancing to be memorable, hashtag sweet marketing bros, back in the earlier years of television, viewers were subjected to the occasional public information film. In these kind of short films, typically they would educate children about how to avoid certain dangers in the big wide world. We've had everything from the road safety hedgehogs teaching kids how to cross the road properly to the importance of learning to swim with Rolf Harris. I'm not even going there. Dirty Nancy. Anyway, over time there's been some really obscure safety adverts for a whole bunch of subjects, but one of the scariest of all time was broadcast in the early 70s, back in a time when kids didn't want to be glued to Fortnite 34 hours a day, when children actually wanted to go outside. How weird, right? They needed educating about the dangers of playing near bodies of water to prevent the risk of drowning. A very sad subject that has caused many tragedies, and what better way to teach our youth about how they can potentially save their lives than to absolutely terrify them. In 1973, a public information film made by the British Central Office of Information was released into the world, and it worked because not only did it tell kids not to play near water, it scared them to the point they never wanted to swim again. It's time to talk about Lonely Water, or The Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water, to give it its full title. Written by Christine Herman and directed by Jeff Grant, Lonely Water may only be a minute and a half long, but it's a minute and a half that caused a lasting impression on its viewers for decades. It's narrated by Donald Pleasance, one of Britain's greatest actors of all time, who horror fans will know mostly for playing Dr. Loomis in the Halloween franchise.
I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
He has such an eerily captivating voice to begin with, but then comes the narration itself.
I am the spirit of dark and lonely water.
It's told from the perspective of the spirit of dark and lonely water, who is literally a grim reaper type being who lurks in the background around the mists of open waters, waiting for foolish children to plunge into their deaths. Talk about subtlety. Nope, water is guarded by death himself. The spirit says that he is
ready to trap the unwary, the show-off, the fool.
Basically, if you don't get your act together, you're gonna die. We see a bunch of kids playing in a field. One of them knocked a football in some water and is trying to get it out with a stick, but the water is a lot deeper than it appears on the surface. But the bank is slippery and he falls in the water. We never see him again. It's just a silent pause with all his friends giving shocked expressions. Christ almighty. Then we get another kid in a similar situation, climbing across a tree branch, unwary of it being frail and easily breakable. The branch can't take his weight and snaps with an enormous loud crunch that just goes through your body.
It'll never take his weight.
And the boy too plummets to his doom, all while the spirit watches in the reeds nearby. Despite there being a huge sign for danger no swimming, boys will be boys, right? A young boy is in a river drowning, and you can hear a young girl and boy suggesting to grab a long stick and try and help pull him out. However, right before this, we see on screen all sorts of debris and dumped items like cars and beds, all of which can reside underwater, as the spirit explains that water can contain these hidden things, and that you can become trapped by them. The camera then zooms directly into the dark abyssal void of the spirit's hood and collapses into his vacant robes on the floor after the other kids suggest to help the drowning boy with the long stick. The spirit has been defeated by sensible children, whom he has no power over. However, despite being defeated here, the spirit exclaims,
I'll be back.
What a haunting line to end on, especially with that echo effect. This is so disturbingly crafted that it doesn't half make the message sink in. The most perfect way for a message to sink in is for it to sink under your skin, and that's achieved so well here. I mean, the Rolf Harris film I mentioned earlier, all jokes aside, was also intended to give the same messages, with Harris saying how important it is to learn to swim or else something bad can happen. The same message as Lonely Water, but Lonely Water does this message in a nightmarish way that you feel how seriously you should take it. You see children falling to their deaths on screen, never to be seen again, and are explicitly warned in Donald Pleasance's chilling voice that he is always waiting, he is always ready, he will always take advantage of foolish children, and even if you are sensible, there's always potential for him to re-emerge from the depths and take another child. Then there's the spirit itself. By making him look like the Grim Reaper, it slaps the message right on the tin. Bodies of water can kill, loud and clear. He gives me serious vibes of the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come from the Muppet Christmas Carol as well. Anytime a black hooded figure with no facial features, just an empty hood, is on screen warning me of committing terrible life choices, I'm gonna listen. The legacy of Lonely Water remains to this day, with big YouTube channels such as Nostalgia Critic referencing it, and in a 2006 poll ranking the greatest public information films of the Central Office of Information, Lonely Water came in at number 4, with dozens of people citing the film's power and lasting impression on children in the 1970s. A review for the British Film Institute said that Lonely Water plays like a distilled horror film, deploying the menacing tone and special effects normally seen in X-rated cinema shockers. I cannot disagree with that. But what do you lot reckon? Would this keep you from acting like a tit around lakes, or would you jump in anyway, not fearing some random geezer in a dressing gown? Let me know in the comments what you think, and feel free to recommend any other sources of nightmare fuel you think we should cover on the show. Until then, if you'd be so kind as to hit the subscribe button, that would be fantastic. Or else you'll face the wrath of the spirit of dark and lonely YouTube creators just wanting to get a break in life. And trust me, you don't want to bump into him. I'll be back.